Let's start with the Chiefs because it's now clear that Orlando Brown won't be back. They snagged Javon Taylor from the Jaguars on a 4-year deal. And that's the replacement for Orlando Brown, period. That's it. They're doing the swap. They wanted a long-term answer at tackle. They didn't want to do the franchise tag dance with Orlando Brown. They didn't want to pay him $20 million, $19.99 to be exact, under the franchise tag. So, Chris, your thoughts on Orlando Brown out, Javon Taylor in for the Chiefs?
No, I'm kind of surprised. I'm not going to lie. I mean, Javon Taylor, I really like the player. He's good. He certainly fits the mold. He's a guy that's been playing right tackle, right? So, like Orlando Brown, who left the Ravens and then went to the Chiefs, he's going to have to make that adjustment. But the Chiefs are one of those teams, Mike, like we've talked about before, like the Steelers with wide receivers. Andy Reid and his eye for talent on the offensive line, when he signs somebody, I go, oh. He sees something he likes, and he knows there's something he can do here to mold this guy into exactly what he wants for the Chiefs offense. You know, I think the shocker for me is, hey, Javon Taylor certainly worth this contract. You know, big, good feet, long arms, prototype left tackle from that standpoint. You know, like Orlando Brown, got a lot of heat when he came into the league for being a little sloppy, you know, body sloppy, maybe not the most professional, slow-footed that way as far as work ethic. I meant professional. You know, there was that kind of rumor around him, but certainly got that right and on the right track. And then, hey, this is essential. We know that. Hey, one thing we've seen here is if you give 15 a little time, he can beat just about anybody. But I am shocked, Mike, from this fact that they didn't get done with Orlando Brown. Orlando Brown's a really damn good left tackle. And that to me is the most interesting point, Mike. What did he do? He priced himself out of this, you know, whole conversation,
yes.
and that's certainly what it seems like from the outside looking in.
Now, first of all, I'm glad you clarified when you characterized Javon Taylor as sloppy that you meant professional only. I hate to think that he doesn't wash his hands after using the bathroom.
I would use that as gross, like he's got hygiene problems. So.
Yeah, like eating a hamburger off the floor at
exactly.
LaGuardia Airport.
Exactly.
That would fall into that category. So it's possible, since Andrew Wiley left the Chiefs for the Commanders, it's possible Taylor gets plugged into right tackle.
I thought
Orlando
that maybe.
Brown
right.
is the prodigal son. If he, you know, they may have been just, maybe they're thinking, okay, Orlando Brown goes out to market, and he wants too much. We know he wants too much, and no one's going to give him what he wants. So let him go find out on his own. He's not going to listen to us. Let him go find out on his own what's not out there, and then maybe he comes back to us on a more reasonable deal, because it's easier to play left tackle and right tackle and left guard and right guard and center when your quarterback is Patrick Mahomes and can run around and buy time and help you avoid getting your sack numbers up, because you've got a quarterback who has the mobility to avoid being sacked even if you whiffed on the guy you were supposed to block. So there's still a chance. The first reaction yesterday, though, was widely, I'd say, Javon Taylor replaces Orlando Brown without any thought given to Andrew Wiley, like I did at the top of the show. So thank you, Pete, for reminding me that Wiley is gone. And it could be they're just really upgrading at right tackle by spending a lot on Javon Taylor, and then they're going to find a way to keep Orlando Brown. But that's kind of the way it goes. When you see a big contract for an offensive lineman, when he's a tackle, you're going to assume left, because left is more valuable. I haven't done the research recently, which is a fancy way of saying I don't know. I can't imagine a lot of teams have right tackle making more money than left tackle, unless right tackle's on second contract like Brian O'Neill in Minnesota, and left tackle like Christian Darrisaw is under rookie contract. If you have both guys on a second contract, I think the left tackle's making more money than the right tackle.
More times than not, I think you're right. Lane Johnson with the Eagles is maybe one of the few specific ones that I can think of right off the top of my head, right? Who else am I missing there? Maybe Braden Smith. Right, who's your guy up at the Minnesota Vikings right now?
Brian O'Neill. I said Brian O'Neill on the right.
Yeah, Brian O'Neill
on the left.
Yeah. Right.
O'Neill on the right.
Yeah,
said it.
So okay, you said that one. Sorry, but yeah, you're right.
Are you
it's rare.
Listening? Yeah.
You know, I was also trying to think in my mind if there was any other ones out there. And Pete likes to talk a lot in our ear, so it's hard sometimes. But the other thing too is,
I think we just need to give up telling Pete not to talk in our ears because it's never going to stop, no matter how many times we say.
The left tackle thing,
each other.
I know. The left tackle thing, though, you know, when you really look at that too, there's more value there because it's the blind side, but I don't think it's as great as it used to be, right, Mike? I mean, it's still a thing, but it's not a thing into the fact that it doesn't matter. Nick Bosa likes to go to both sides, and he's going to attack either tackle according to what the defense calls or sometimes mismatches or whatever. So, you know, you're going to see the best pass rushers whether you're at the right tackle or left tackle. Generally, right tackle can maybe be a better run blocker. Left tackle is the blind side. That's probably the biggest difference.
Here's the reality.
Yeah.
You could have, Anthony Munoz, Larry Allen, Mike Webster, Gene Upshaw, and me. And if I'm there among those 4 all-time greats, I'm the one they're coming at. They're going to exploit the weakness wherever the weakness is. So you got to have 5 across. Otherwise, they're going to blow through the weakest spot on the line. So there's value across the board, up the middle, around the edges. You got to have great tackles on each side. So all we know for now is Jawaan Taylor has joined the Chiefs. Orlando Brown still available, not linked to anyone yet because, as you surmised, I think he wants too much. And there is a way potentially the dominoes fall that he comes back to Kansas City. We'll just see.
Yeah, right. I don't expect it, you know, how we started. It doesn't seem like that. I would think it would be a huge, like, blow, whoa, wow, the market's really not where I thought it might be. But, you know, the one thing I'll throw out there to you, Mike, too, is, you know, even if they can get him back for, let's say he was asking for $23 million a year or a top of the market left tackle type money, you know, if he says, okay, I'll come back for 18 or 19 a year, do you think they do it? You know, I look at their team and I go, wow, you know, you're paying Joe Thuney a lot of money, right? And so that's a big contract. You got Jawaan Taylor. You know, Creed Humphrey at center is going to be coming down the pipe here at some point. I think there's some other guys that we certainly could talk about. Chris Jones, maybe a sweetener, certainly that. So that's where I just find it hard to believe that they're going to be able to get that all done with that much money along the front line.
Well, and one of the realities that we'll see starting by the end of the week, really, the guys who overpriced themselves on a multi-year deal doing one-year contract, bet on yourself, come back next year. So would it stun me to see something along the lines of
I hear that.
17, 18, 19, plus incentives based on playing time, incentives based on championship or achievement by the team. You can come up with a way to get him to where he wants to be if you dangle enough carrots and he successfully catches those triggers that he's going to be pursuing under the incentive package in his contract. But, you know, we saw Evan Ingram do that last year with a one-year deal with the Jaguars. We see it every year.
Yeah.
Juju Smith-Schuster with a one-year deal last year with the Chiefs. You do a one-year deal, you put a pin in it, and you wait and see. Smith-Schuster's done 2 one-year deals. He did one with Pittsburgh and stayed.
Right.
Then he did one with the Chiefs, and now he's back on the market again, and the Chiefs waiting to see what happens there. The 49ers, another team that is doing what they have to do to get even better. Everyone was wondering where Javon Hargrave was going to go. I hadn't heard the 49ers at all.
They were lying in the weeds, right,
Cardinals.
Mike? Yeah.
I think the Cardinals are just ready to concede the rest of the decade, but the 49ers definitely are not. They get Hargrave on a 4-year deal. After he had been a free agent leaving Pittsburgh, went to Philly, finished the deal, and walked away to the 49ers, one of the other great teams in the NFC. And defensively, the very rich get very richer in San Francisco.
Maybe the move of the day right there. I mean, you said it right. It's a great defense, and they got better with definitely one of the premier defensive linemen on the market as far as that's concerned. And, you know, one of the 2 or 3 best, you know, I'm going to say he's top 5 D tackle for sure. I'm not going to put him in Aaron Donald's Chris Jones class, but I think that next group down, Jeffrey Simmons, Javon Hargrave, you know, that group there, he's right there in that conversation. He is. I mean, we've talked about it a lot. And then you add to the 49ers him with Eric Armstead and Nick Bosa. They have Javon Kinlaw. I think that's also what it does. It protects Javon Kinlaw, who hasn't quite flourished yet since being the number 12 pick of the draft. He's had injury issues. So he's also kind of an insurance policy for that guy as he continues to try to develop and all that. But wow, I did not see that coming. And then it's a double whammy too, Mike, because I had heard the Browns were really interested in Hargrave. But, we know the Eagles wanted him back. The 49ers, they threw more cash at Javon Hargrave and got it done. And, wow is right. You talked to it. Rich get richer. That defensive line now with him, one of the best pass rushing D tackles in the game, and then, of course, damn good in the run game. That was maybe the signing of the day for the top-notch Super Bowl type teams.
And it's a difficult balance, too, because you have a guy in Nick Bosa who is already 1 year overdue for his second contract, Defensive Player of the Year. And I don't think you make that move for Hargrave unless you are damn sure you're going to find a way to keep Bosa.
No doubt.
In the past, remember they had to make the decision?
Right.
And they had to trade, why am I blanking on the name of the guy they sent to the Colts for a first-round pick? You know it.
Yeah.
I just don't right now.
Oh, yeah.
I'm 57.
But
you don't know
Buckner,
it either, and you're 42.
Buckner.
DeForest Buckner. Thank you. So, sometimes you got to make those choices.
Right.
When you got too many. I have an excuse. I'm much older than you, and I'm expected to forget things. But DeForest Buckner had to go. So you bring in Javon Hargrave. Surely Nick Bosa's not going anywhere.
Right.
Surely they haven't lost their damn minds. So I think it's just a matter of time before Bosa gets his contract. And this underscores it. You don't do this deal unless you're ready to give Bosa what he wants. And it's just a matter of time before they do it.
Yeah, agreed. I don't think Nick Bosa is going to be primary target number one for the 49ers. It's him or Micah Parsons or T.J. Watt and Chris Jones are the best defensive players in football. And he's totally scheme important to them. He's loved by the fan base. You're right, Mike. The one thing with the 49ers, even though not a ton of salary cap space, when you break them down, because when they signed Javon Hargrave yesterday too, I was a little like, man, wait, how are they going to do all this? But you start to break them down. The one thing they got going in their directions is no big quarterback contract, and Jimmy G's gone. Okay, McGlinchey, we'll talk about him. They lost him. They didn't have to pay a big right tackle. But, a lot of their, big players, they got their ducks in a row, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Fred Warner, the contract's figured out. They don't have to worry about it for a while. Dre Greenlaw, they got that in a good spot. Trent Williams, McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Ayuk still on a rookie contract. Kittle's coming to the end. That could be interesting to see what happens when it's all shakes out. But, I think for a team that's top-notch, they kind of are able to plan for the future right now because they got their marquee guys already planned for and accounted for to where they can make moves like this and give a big payday to a Javon Hargrave.
As expected, Mike McGlinchey, right tackle, out. He goes to the Denver Broncos. And, look, there was never any real expectation they were going to keep him. And that's one of the buyer beware realities of free agency. I haven't said it yet this year. I must be slipping again.
Buyer beware.
Getting old. But when you have a guy who spent his entire career with one team and they haven't signed him to a new contract and they're not aggressive about keeping him, it tells you something. Now, sometimes you can have a coaching change, philosophy change, but McGlinchey's been there the whole Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch tenure. So I think it just makes it critical to do even more research and understand why it is a team is making a decision to move on from a guy that they drafted and developed and that is now a free agent. And, one of the realities is when you're part of a great team, other teams may view you as better than you are. If Mike McGlinchey had been languishing with a crap team the last few years, would he really have attracted the attention of the Broncos? I don't know. I think part of it is you're with the 49ers. There's an aura that comes with it, and there's an opportunity to take a little chunk out of one of the best teams in the NFL.
Yeah.
That's why I'm surprised that we have seen an aggressive effort to attack the Eagles. I'm surprised we haven't seen more of an attack on the Chiefs. But that's the key. You have a way to kind of even out the talent if you target the players with the best teams, even if those players wouldn't be the best free agents if they were with a crap team.
Yeah. Well, the Chiefs, too, like we just talked about during the Super Bowl, they got a young team. They don't got a lot of, huge free agents where you go, oh, wow, their team could be totally disrupted. Juan Thornhill, Orlando Brown, we hit on that. But you're right. It's certainly not the Eagles situation. The 49ers situation, I can speak to this, and I don't think, my friend Kyle Shanahan would have any issue. He really likes Mike McGlinchey. I know that. He always liked Mike McGlinchey. I think this is more of a case, Mike, where they wanted Mike McGlinchey, but you got a new team, right? Not a new team, but a team with a new coach who's trying to set a new narrative and build a new culture, and he's got some money, and he's trying to rebuild his quarterback who's heavily invested in. And, if you got to overpay for a guy to kind of set forth your new culture and your new way of life, and it's an important position like right tackle, to me it looked more like, it was just one of those where Denver was desperate to change it. The 49ers probably had a mark or a number where they went, wait, we'll go to that number. Denver exceeded that, and now Mike McGlinchey's at right tackle, which, I will say, I think you heard me say, I would be shocked if Sean Payton didn't go all in on big feckers, okay, because he likes big feckers, all right? So I thought he would go all in on big feckers to protect Russell Wilson and start this revamping of his confidence and all of that stuff there. You like that, you fecker?
I've created a feckin' monster.
Yes, you have.
We'll talk more about the Broncos spending spree later in the program. Let's stay focused on the 49ers, though. They also lost safety Jimmy Ward to the Texans. He's following D'Amico Ryan's new coach in Houston, former defensive coordinator of the 49ers. Look, this one was not a surprise because they kept safety Deshaun Gibson. Ward got bumped to slot corner last year. He really didn't like it, so now he gets a chance, presumably, to go to Houston and play safety, unless D'Amico Ryan says, hey, I really liked you at slot corner last year. Would you mind sliding down there? So Ward goes there. The one that it was one of those that I hadn't thought of, but it made me think of things you've said in the past about Kyle Shanahan and what he thinks of certain quarterbacks. Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
There goes the Tom Brady discussion. They've slammed the door on Tom Brady in Miami. They've slammed the door on Tom Brady in San Francisco because now the guy who's there is the insurance against Brock Purdy and Trey Lance not getting it done is Sam Darnold, the third overall pick in the 2018 draft, who by way of New York to Carolina now is a San Francisco 49er back on the West Coast, a little bit north than where he was at USC.
Yeah, no, I think it's, you're saying it right. And yeah, I think Shanahan's had his eye on Sam Darnold for quite some time. I think he liked him coming out of the draft. I think when he was available from the Jets before he went to Carolina, there was conversations about bringing Sam Darnold in. And I think for the scenario, they're stuck in right now, he's a great fit for what they want to do. One, I think, he fits how Shanahan wants. He's a good play action passer. He's good in the pocket. He's got a quick release, right? He's a lot like a Brock Purdy in a lot of ways. Maybe has more high-end physical ability, but maybe hasn't been taught or just maybe not quite the natural player Brock Purdy has. Brock Purdy's got great feel. That's what makes him good. He doesn't have maybe the greatest speed or the biggest arm, but when you put it all together, he can just play. Sam Darnold, I would say that's one thing that I'm not totally sold on, but now he's with Shanahan, and he'll teach him how to play a little bit better and, of course, have a support system that we talk about so much. So, I get it. And I think that's, about what I expected from the 49ers, that kind of move with a guy that's played a little bit and protects them in case Brock Purdy's not ready to go to start the year.
The Eagles, as mentioned, have been rated. Javon Hargrave to the 49ers. Linebacker TJ Edwards jumps to the Chicago Bears, and safety Marcus Epps all gone. The only good news yesterday for the defending NFC champions, center Jason Kelce decides to come back for another season, signs the deal. They're excited about
doing some
that,
shots.
But they've got plenty. They've got, what were they? They were drinking something. Mezcal? Is that what they were drinking? Is that what it was?
I'm not exactly sure. They went double here, and I wanted to be like, hey, man, Howie's got to watch out, because that guy's double the size of him. So that
Howie's about $105.
Right. I thought at first when I saw this, they were giving a little cheers to they heard a rumor that Howie heard a rumor you might have bought some clothes that fit you better, and that's what they were cheering to. But
shut up.
But then I figured it all out here.
Yeah. So Kelce back, and that may be the only. That maybe Howie maybe Howie was taking that shot both to celebrate and to wallow in despair as he sees the revolving door with more guys leaving than arriving. But that's they knew this was coming.
Yes, that's
right. They knew it all year. 20 free agents, and you have to kind of strategically let guys go. Fans freak out when the names leave, just because it's a recognizable name. Who's going to replace him? What are we going to do?
Right.
I'll give you an example. My son's all nervous about what the Vikings are doing. What are they doing? What are they doing? Who are they going to sign? What are they going to do? And he's kind of soured on Patrick Peterson, a guy that I love. So my son's complaining about Patrick Peterson. He's too old. He's too old. He's too old. He signs with the Steelers, and my son freaks out. Oh, my gosh, they lost Patrick Peterson. You've been complaining about him
Oh, yeah,
for
right,
months.
right. Now he wants him.
And now
right.
he's gone.
He
and you're
flirts with
complaining
somebody
that he's
else, and now
gone.
you want him back. Right. It's the guy who lost his girlfriend. And now I want her back. Wait, she's with another guy? I liked her. Oh, no. How could she do this to me?
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about your Vikings, but I hear you there, yeah.
Hey, but the Eagles have a plan. My point is, Eagles have a plan, and part of the plan is going to entail watching guys leave. I think they've earned the benefit of the doubt when it comes to replacing those guys with someone else. They retooled a Super Bowl championship team and were a contender the whole way.
Right.
It wasn't like they didn't do the Jaguars thing where they went all the way to the bottom and then came back to the top. They were good all throughout as they're changing the tire on the moving car, and they're back in the Super Bowl 5 years later. So I have faith that the Eagles have a plan for whatever it is they're doing. The Bengals lost
Let me just say one thing about that real quick. Just one quick. You mind if I talk about the Eagles for a second? You jerk. I mean, geez.
Please do.
No, but I'm
trying to keep us on track.
You're right, though.
So we don't do a 1 hour segment.
Well, Howie always has a plan, though, and they got draft picks galore, right? So they're going to have to retool their team a little bit. There's only so many free agents and so many people they can pay, so they're going to have to work some of this draft angle. You're right. And the other thing that's interesting to me, just with the Jason Kelce thing, to hit on that, is just that, we know he's awesome. He's a Hall of Fame center. He's on his way there. They drafted his replacement last year, right, in the second round. Juergens from Nebraska, who's damn good center. So I'm interested now to see how they kind of play that out there, because either right guard, Isaac Seumalo, right, he's a free agent. So I could see them maybe going Kelce, and then they have Landon Dickerson, who was also a center at Alabama that plays left guard, and now they move Juergens to right guard for, a year before maybe he takes over at center out, next year when Kelsey's gone. But, yeah, I'm with you, Mike. The Eagles, let's not be worried about them. They got plenty of riches to rebuild this, and Howie's the man.
Assuming he is gone next year. We've been assuming
maybe
he's
you're
gone
right,
next year for how many years now. So we'll see how much longer he keeps going. But clearly he's still getting it done at a very high level. Okay, now the Bengals. Couple of safeties gone, Jesse Bates and Von Bell. The Jesse Bates situation is no surprise. Franchise tagged last year. They drafted his replacement in Daxton Hill.
That's right.
He knew this was coming. As long as Hill did enough to check the box that he could step in, Jesse Bates was going to be gone. And yes, Jesse Bates is a good player. And the reality is you got to pay Joe Burrow. You got to pay Jamar Chase. You got to figure something out with T. Higgins. There are going to be positions on the team where you just have to say, well, it was fun, but now we have to go with someone dramatically younger, dramatically cheaper, so we can have a full roster of players who complement each other. We keep our best players at the positions where it's the hardest to find great players, and we just go out and find replacements like at running back, like at safety. That's why I think Joe Mixon is still in jeopardy of having something happen. All these running backs with the 8-figure salaries who are 5, 6, 7 years into their careers, I think they have to wonder what's going to happen, because teams that are trying to manage the cap realize that's the easy spot, because we go out and we find somebody right out of college, and that person's going to come in and get it done. So last year the Bengals found it with Daxton Hill at safety. Jesse Bates leaves. This year they could do more of a hot change with running back, with Mixon out and somebody else in. So this is just part of what the Bengals are dealing with as they get ready to give a huge pile of money to Joe Burrow. Chris.
Yeah, you're right. They got some things on the horizon that they got to be worried about a little bit. Like Jesse Bates, I'm with you. Nobody's shocked that Jesse Bates left town. There was an issue going back to training camp last year. He is a hell of a player. He really is. I love watching Jesse Bates play. But you said it. They drafted his replacement. He was almost exactly the same guy. When we were talking about safeties last year in the draft process, before he was picked by the Bengals, I said, this guy's Jesse Bates, right? That is Daxton Hill guy. He's Jesse Bates. Well, they drafted him, and now we know why. Von Bell was a little bit of a shock. I thought he might be a guy they can maybe keep, up there in years a little bit as far as, veteran football player, but damn, still a good player, good leader. That was a good signing by E.J. Evero and Frank Reich and company there in Carolina. But now I am interested with the Bengals as far as who's going to be that other safety opposite of Daxton Hill. That's going to be interesting to see. But I think the main thing is, you're right, they're going to have to lose some players. There's only so many they can keep right now. They got some D linemen they're paying. The O-line's got to continue to be a priority when you got Joe Burrow, like you said, so they're going to have to continue to invest in that. And then Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Higgins, they're all, those are probably the three biggest priority. They want to keep the three amigos together there. So you're right. They're going to lose some really good players, and it's a shame to see it happen, but, they're still a talented football team.
I had a flashback to the 70s as you were discussing that, because there was a time in the NFL where the players never left until they retired or the team was done with them. They just couldn't go anywhere. They had no options. And college was, 3-4 years and then they're gone. 3-4 years and then they're gone. And when you compare that to the NFL, it was less satisfying because you'd have this NFL team that would coalesce and just continue, just like, the Vikings, the Steelers, the Cowboys of the 70s, the Raiders, the Dolphins. And the NFL systematically over the past 30 years is kind of the way college has always been. You have guys for a relatively short period of time, and they're going to be gone, and you have to replace them, and that's why the draft is so important. Draft and develop, and some guys you keep, and some guys you have to move on from. You can't keep them all, and if you try to keep them all, you're just going to get things too far out of whack. It's just not going to work, and that's what the Bengals are realizing. It's one of the curses of having a great team. When you're a bad team, it doesn't matter because there's no one you want to keep. When you're a good team, it's a problem because there's too many guys you want to keep, and you got to make some hard decisions. They did re-sign linebacker Jermaine Pratt to a 3-year deal in Cincinnati. So they kept a guy on the day they lost two.
He's damn good. He's a damn good linebacker, and one of the most underrated linebackers in football. Him and Wilson in the middle are quite the duo, and they are a big reason that defense has been so good the last few years. Maybe not a superstar, but certainly a big piece of fabric to what they do. So, you're right. It's good they got to keep him there.
All right, so the Bills, another team, a contender to mention. No significant moves, but linebacker Tremaine Edmonds, gone via free agency to the Bears. We'll talk later about how the Bears went out and spent like the proverbial drunken sailors. But the Bills did add guard Connor McGovern to a 3-year contract. So 1 for 1 so far. I know with the Bills, there's a curiosity about what they're going to do to upgrade the skill positions to complement Stephon Diggs. What are they going to do about the running game? Naheem Hines did do a restructured deal to stay in Buffalo, but it's not like they used the guy last year anyway. He became a return specialist. They rarely use him on offense. So hopefully part of this deal is they're actually going to give him some real snaps on offense to try to give some more options to Josh Allen. So the Bills still a work in progress, but one guy gone, one guy in, and we wait and see how it plays out. Another significant move for the Bills yesterday, a lot of cap space created with the restructuring of the Josh Allen and Von Miller contracts. So maybe some more to play with as free agency settles down in day 2.
Yeah, the Bills are to me, like one of the most intriguing teams here in free agency in the draft, right? They've done a great job. Sean McDermott, Brandon Beane, I mean, they've built something where they're, beyond relevant every year. They've been in the Super Bowl conversation. But, within that, now we've looked at it and go, wait, they're not really a Super Bowl team, a playoff football team, okay, certainly in that. And they're different in like, okay, well what players are they going to get now, like we talked about when they lost to the Bengals, that can get them over the edge a little bit? Von Miller was supposed to be that one guy, last year that would help them. But I think what we saw and what we said during the year, right, Mike? There just needs to be a little more sizzle on their football team. There needs to be a few high-end difference makers. when we started to name out some of their guys compared to the Eagles and the Chiefs and the Niners and the Bengals and the teams that were left, it was easy, right? We were like, oh, there's just not as many playmakers on their team as there is the other top teams in football. What are they going to do to kind of get over that hump? I'm interested to see what happens. Took a blow yesterday. I mean, Tremaine Edmonds is, a long, freaky, awesome middle linebacker. But yeah, a little bit like one of those things we talked about, a team trying to start a new culture, got a ton of money. They might overpay for a guy like that to kind of get their thing started there. That's a big loss for them. In a transition right now without Leslie Frazier and all that, they lose the quarterback of their defense, but they still got Matt Milano there, but still a big loss in losing Edmonds.
And this is all happening as the Dolphins are becoming the AFC's
right?
F them picks team, and there's a sense they're coalescing, they're rising, they're becoming something that the Bills need to take seriously, especially when you consider the 3 games played between those teams in 2022, including a playoff game where Tua Tagovailoa didn't go, and the Bills still were given everything they could handle by the Miami Dolphins. So when the Bills finally get past the Patriots, it could be before the Bills can fully enjoy it. The Dolphins may leapfrog the Bills, and it may be the 1970s all over again. That's how long it's been since the Dolphins have been consistently a powerhouse. Although in the 80s they had a stretch. They went to a Super Bowl. They were okay. They weren't like they were in the 70s, and it has been a long time since they've won a Super Bowl. There was a deal done yesterday, blinded by Mike White.
Oh, baby.
He's headed to South Florida as the backup to Tua Tagovailoa. I do need to say this, though, Chris, because I know you love the move, but you and I both agreed that they need somebody durable. And durable is something I would not attach to Mike White. Every time he gets a chance to play, what happens?
Yeah,
because he's kind of lanky.
I hear you.
He's he got a rib injury from the Bills. Well, that's one of the various injuries Tua Tagovailoa's had. So I don't know that this is the level of durability maybe they were hoping for.
I hear you there. That's certainly a fair question. And now this offense, and I think where this offense is and the problems they give you and all of that, maybe he is going to be able to protect the quarterback a little bit better than he was, last year with the Jets, where they were beat up on the offensive line and had issues when he was taking over. But yeah, it's 2 years in a row, right? It's last year. It's the year before that on the Thursday night football game against the Indianapolis Colts, where he finally, is getting his second start or something along those lines, and he got hurt in that game and had to come out. So I hear you, but damn, it is a good signing. It is, but I worry. I mean, I joke and always say it's you don't want Mr. Glass to be backing up Mr. Glass, right? And they had that in Teddy Bridgewater. Now, Mike White, has not showed to be the most durable, but damn, he's one of the better backups in football. We know that. He's a borderline bridge starter type quarterback, really awesome backup. And, what's WFAN and the Jets fans going to do without Mike White? I mean, he was the future.
They'll find somebody else.
No, he was the future. He was the savior. What are they going to do now? Tuanon and Mike White, WFAN, and the Miami South, the South, Florida sports scene coming together. Watch out.
Well, you're right. If Mike White gets a chance to play, and if he gets a chance to captivate the locker
Watch
room
out.
and start wearing Mike F. and White T-shirts, you're going to have an issue Tuanon. You're on notice, Tuanon. Here, how about this, though? How would you have felt if the Dolphins had signed Sam Darnold instead of Mike White?
I'm not going to say I would
felt better.
I don't know if I would have felt a whole lot different there. I don't think I would have. Maybe I think there's more potential for Sam Darnold with high-end talent, but I think from what I've seen, Mike White has shown he can play. I don't know if there's a great difference there. This was a much needed type of move by the Miami Dolphins. You got to protect your football team. You got to protect against Tua and the injury history, right? They're really damn good. We know that. You were just talking a second ago. I mean, it's like Super Bowl roster. It's a team that you sit there and go, I think if Tua played in that wild card game, they would have beat the Bills. They had them that day. It's just they couldn't get any offense going together. Get it together there. So I think the move is smart. But the durability thing, I think, is certainly probably the one negative or fair thing to question here in that move, Mike.
Yeah. And look, they still have Skylar Thompson, who they like. I
Right.
just don't think that he's he's proven that he can be the number 2.
Right.
And it may be Mike White for a year and then Skylar Thompson in 2024. Mike White's contract is structured such that it really is a 1-year deal with an option for the second year. Once you dig into the details, you really see what these deals are worth. He can double his money in incentives based on regular season and postseason achievement, but he would have to play a lot to get to that point. But again, it gives them the protection they're looking for.
What about you?
As they embark on
with the Mike White or the Sam Darnold thing? You know, what was your view on that question you asked me? I thought that was a good question.
Well, because if Kyle Shanahan loves Sam Darnold, I would say Mike McDaniel loves him too. He can run that offense. He's mobile. He's a guy that can do the things that maybe that run-based scheme would call upon a quarterback to do. And Sam Darnold has had injuries. I mean, look, a lot of quarterbacks have injuries.
Well, when you're on some bad teams, it's going to happen.
Critical,
Right.
It's just critical to find somebody that you can count on, that you know you can count on to stay on the field if Tua Tagovailoa can't play.
Right.
But it's usually it's one of the traits of an established starter is finding a way to stay on the field. One of the reasons the guy's a backup is because he hasn't been available to his team, and that is one of the factors that contributes to him not being a starter. So bottom line, Sam Darnold and Mike White both enter the backup phase of their careers, but Darnold has a little bit more of an opening because who the hell knows what's going to happen in San Francisco. So from the player's perspective, it's better for Darnold to be in San Francisco. He's clearly number 2 if he's in Miami. Mike White is clearly number 2 behind Tua Tagovailoa, but he's the insurance policy in the event that they need him. Just don't get too smitten with Mike White lest you piss off Tuanon. You mentioned Garoppolo. He exited the market pretty quickly. It came out yesterday the Raiders and the Texans were looking at him with the Jets as a potential, as the fallback, as we've discussed, to Aaron Rodgers. The Raiders get the deal done. 3 years, $72.75 million. We've got the full breakdown at PFT. Now, look, the real guarantee is in the eye of the beholder. I could view this as a $22.5 million 1-year deal.
Exactly.
Yes, there's an $11.25 million roster bonus that's fully guaranteed for next year. But if he goes somewhere else and gets $11.25 million, the Raiders are off the hook for that. So it really is 1 year, 22.5, and then we'll see. If they really were going to guarantee a 2-year stay, they would have guaranteed the base salary at signing as well. The base salary next year isn't guaranteed. The roster bonus is. And there's huge per-game roster bonuses in there to account for the reality that the guys missed a lot of games. So, this is clearly lower end of the middle of the pack right now in the NFL. It's not even close to the deal he did with the 49ers 5 years ago, which at the time, for a brief period of time, was the richest deal ever in NFL history until he got leapfrogged by Kirk Cousins. It was $27.5 million. Even if he stays all 3 years and gets the full 20, what is it? It's 22.5 or something like that per year. It's Peter King has been lobbying for a true middle class for quarterback contracts. This is low middle class for quarterback contracts. And Chris, the structure tells me the Raiders are still in play for a quarterback in the top 10.
Right, I agreed. I don't think anything's off the table with the structure of the contract, right? But they had him making a somewhat of an aggressive move. The Raiders, I mean, that's the first thing. We're kind of stuck in after the Panthers made the trade up to go to number 1, where if they're looking for a pocket passing drop back type of quarterback, there might not be the options they like that are there where they're picking right now. They could be a team that was left out, like we talked about. To where nothing that they like that fits the way they want to play offense is available, so they had to protect themselves. But within that and what you're talking about and how the contract's set up, the guy, we didn't think this guy would fall here. He's here. We could take him. Okay, we're only tied to Jimmy G for a year. We can develop him, blah, blah, blah. Also, if Jimmy G doesn't play great next year, it's just okay, and they go, ooh, we want more, and it ends up being a great quarterback draft class next year, they'll have the flexibility to dive into that conversation then. And I think it's a win-win for both. If you're Jimmy Garoppolo too, right, Mike? I mean, Houston Texans, Las Vegas Raiders, I mean, it's not even close. I get to go with Josh McDaniels and Devontae Adams and Darren Waller and the number 1 running back in football and Hunter Renfrow. So I think from all those angles, it made sense from the Raiders, who were stuck in a tough spot. But for Garoppolo, if he wants to further his career, get another big contract after this, I think he put himself in the right place. And, of course, they got history together, and he'll know the system and all that. So it made a lot of sense for me, for sure.
I'm looking at the breakdown now because I got the numbers a little bit jumbled again. Because
you were on the right track, though. I remember.
$24.25 million is the average. But here's the key. This is where it becomes, and this is one of those little nuances of contract evaluation. It's $24.25 million, but $1.53 million is tied to per game roster bonuses each year. So he's got to be healthy. He's got to be in uniform to get another $1.53 million. So you take that off of the $24.25 and let's see how many games he's able to actually play. Because with Jimmy Garoppolo, who knows? It's going to be anywhere between 2 and 17. And I'm going to set the over-under at 9.5, and I may take the under. Because that's just at a certain point, that's who you are as a player.
Yeah.
You get injured, you don't stay healthy, you can't be on the field, and in this case, you're not going to make all your money if that's the situation. And I keep thinking back, Chris, to what he said after the 2021 season when the 49ers drafted Trey Lance and Garoppolo was the lame duck, even though he ended up staying 2 more years. Last year was kind of a weird, fluky thing. He said, I wouldn't wish that on anyone. Well, he may have walked right into another situation like that. He could be this year's Mitch Trubisky, the prior year's Jimmy Garoppolo. Sure. There's always a guy every year who's the starter until draft day.
Yeah.
And then you're the starter until they decide to put the rookie on the field.
That's right. The options he had, it was one or the other, right? Houston, we know they're going to, go quarterback. So he definitely was going to be in that boat if he went to Houston. The Raiders, at least there's a chance that might not happen this year. There's a chance now, the Raiders, with where they're picking and how it shakes out, to where they might just go, okay, we got our quarterback right now for the year. We're going to work with that, make it happen, and we're going to address some other spots on our football team. Damn, we need some better defensive players. Let's take a damn good defensive player in the top 10. So it gives them options. And then, there's no Jarrett Stidham, who went with the Broncos. I'm sure the Stidham could have maybe been that placeholder guy or whatever else. I don't know how that all ended up shaking out there, but obviously didn't get him, and maybe that made them even more desperate to pay Jimmy Garoppolo. With Stidham leaving, the Jets being in the conversation, Houston being in the conversation, maybe made them raise the price a little bit to make sure they got Jimmy G.
The Broncos picking up Mike McGlinchey from the San Francisco 49ers, also adding Ben Powers to the offensive line and Chris Manhertz at tight end. So the Broncos doing what they have to do to try to make that offense better around Russell Wilson. He's not going anywhere. Their challenge, their mandate is to try to make the offense better around him, Chris.
Yeah, this is this is what Sean Payton is all about, from the Bill Parcells School of Coaching, big people, right? We talked about this, last week or the week before. This is what he believes in. He's going to control the line of scrimmage, and then added on top of that, this is a huge process, and why I said that on the, hot take tub machine there is just that this is a huge process in rebuilding the confidence and the player who is Russell Wilson. That's what this is about. So not only does it fit his mantra and his attitude of how he wants to coach, but now, as we talked at the time, he's going to be able to sell this to Russell. Hey, look, I got these guys up here. Don't you worry. You're protected. They got it figured out. Just listen to what I say about the coverage. Keep your eyes downfield. Hey, you don't got to do it all yourself. We got a good O-line. We're going to be able to run the ball. So that's where, it's a genius move. I wasn't shocked to see him do it, of course. And, Ben Powers is a gigantic guard from Baltimore, right? Aren't they always gigantic from Baltimore? And then McGlinchey is a really damn good right tackle where, they were willing to spend a little extra cash to make sure they got that guy to help out their organization.
They also added Zach Allen to a 3-year deal at defensive end. They lost Draymond Jones to the Seahawks. We'll talk about that coming up. So tell me what you think about Zach Allen.
Zach Allen is really, in a lot of ways, like a Draymond Jones, not quite as talented, but, I mean, can kind of do it all on the defensive front. Defensive end, can play defensive tackle. He's not going to be necessarily a sack machine, but he's going to be extremely disruptive. Feck the play up is going to be a thing with him. He will feck the play up a lot. Yep, thank you. But, yeah, that's where he's good. He's got a little bit of he's a poor man's J.J. Watt. Let's just say that to a degree. That's kind of how I would look at Zach Allen. But tough, physical, again, the mantra of Sean Payton, what he had with the Saints. Awesome run-stopping D-lines, big, powerful offensive lines. He's starting that in Denver.
As I mentioned, Draymond Jones, they lose him to the Seahawks. We'll talk about that coming up. They re-signed linebacker Alex Singleton and added Jarrett Stidham. Mentioned him a couple of minutes ago, the guy that we thought maybe would stay with the Raiders.
Yeah.
He is a day one, 2-year, $10 million deal with the Broncos to be a backup to Russell Wilson. So spending some of that Walmart money right out of the gates. I think DeMarcus Walker's with the Bears, not the Broncos, but everybody else with the Broncos, and they're doing what they can to make that team better.
Yeah, they are. And, starting, with the big guys up front. They put the receivers on notice a little bit by saying they were right up on for conversations for trade talks. Hamler, Judy, Cam side. He's going to put everybody on notice. Even Jarrett Stidham. It's a great signing. He's not going to have Johnny no-name backup quarterback. So, Russell, you could just feel good about yourself every day and have B- practices but still be the best quarterback. He's not going to let that happen. He's going to have a guy behind him that's just good enough to go, hey, Russell, you're not doing real well. Well, Stidham right here's, throwing the ball, making decisions, doing everything great. You better pick it up. Let alone if Russell gets hurt or doesn't play well, he's got a little insurance policy there. But I thought that was just the right touch to kind of hot poker Russell Wilson too. Not too threatening, but you can't sit back and just go, oh, yeah, I'm Russell and I'm the starting quarterback and I'll dominate the day there too. So Sean Payton, we know he's got an edge to him, and he's bringing that to Denver right now.
Yeah, and look, this is what you got to do. And when you have the money, when you have the cap space, this is what the Jaguars did last year. Remember, they went out and they spent and they spent and they spent.
Yeah.
And it's just one of the devices, and sometimes it lines up in a way that allows you to do it. It requires you to do it. The Patriots did it a couple of years ago. When the Patriots did it, it kind of normalized it. It used to just be bad team, flush with cash and cap space, doing dumb stuff. Now we recognize and respect the possibility that there can be a strategic effort to going out and using early free agency signings as a way to make your team better. Now, the Patriots didn't necessarily jump into the pool early. They let the market settle down, and that's always the smarter way to do it. But I think from the Broncos' perspective, screw it. Let's go do it. We need to turn this team around. We're going to go get these guys. Even if we have to pay a little bit of a premium, so be it. And maybe they didn't have to pay a huge premium because it's a new day there now. Great ownership, great fan base, great head coach. And, maybe some of these guys were swayed by that. Maybe all things equal, they decided they wanted to go to Denver.
I don't think it's a hard sell. I mean, it's not a hard sell. You and I both know it's an awesome stadium. It's an awesome fan base, right? They've won before. They treat the players the right way there. I know it's new ownership, but I certainly wouldn't think it's going in the wrong way with that family, the Walton family. So, and then you got Sean Payton on top of that. Yeah. And then you got a quarterback that had a rough year, but still, I mean, you're going there, you're going, damn, we still got Russell Wilson. And Sean Payton with him, we think it's going to be the old Russell Wilson. So, they're going in the right direction there. And, I have a feeling we'll see more moves and some aggressive things from that Denver group out there, before this free agency's over.
We mentioned Jesse Bates earlier leaving the Bengals. He landed with the Falcons, who went out and spent like crazy on Monday, adding also defensive tackle David Onyemata, linebacker Caden Ellis, and just breaking now, Taylor Heineke.
Wow.
Quarterback room in Atlanta. So
nice. That's a nice sign.
Look, I still think it where does he fit with Desmond Ridder? I don't know. Great either. Backup or competition, or are they both just waiting around to see what big move they may make, whether it's a rush to get Lamar Jackson or a first-round pick if they stay put or trade up to try to get a long-term answer. Although I feel like they just got Desmond Ridder last year. I mean, I don't think they should give up on him after 1 year. They're in a great position to draft a quarterback if one falls to them, but I think that's part of the tension. We want to see what Ridder has, but we may be in a position to do better this year. Taylor Heineke, I guess, would be the insurance against Ridder either getting injured or just flopping, but we'll see. Bottom line is he's another guy off the market at the quarterback position. He'll be in Atlanta, and the Falcons, I respect it. 7-10 last year, 7-10 the year before. They're doing what they have to do to try to get better.
I love everything they did yesterday, right? I mean, everything. First off, re-signing Chris Lindstrom, right, to the 5-year extension. He's the best guard in football. He was my first team All-Pro vote. I mean, he's the man. He's Zach Martin 4 years ago. This is the best guard in the game. Just a road grader. He's awesome in the run game. He's really good at pass protection. Then, like Mike, we know they want to run the ball. It's Arthur Smith. It's where he came from, Tennessee. He wants to play that style. Oh, okay. Oh, let's couple another tight end, along with Kyle Pitts. So now, okay, we got 2 tight ends, smash mouth football. We got our running backs. We're going to run it down your throat. Oh, hey, you brought in big people to play defense. Oh, now we're spread out. Jonas Smith and Kyle Pitts both can split out and be dangerous at receiver. Let alone, Drake London is another receiver there. So they got some things working there. And then, new defensive coordinator who came from New Orleans. He does what we see a lot of teams do. Brings a guy, David Onyemata there, right? Kind of, again, spread the culture, know what to expect. Good interior defensive linemen. They need help there. They're not enough, interior difference makers or difference makers on their defensive line altogether, and get Jesse Bates. I like it all. The quarterback thing's interesting, Mike. I really don't have a feel for what the Falcons are doing. Their signs are pointing that I believe them, and what they're saying is that they're going to give Desmond Ridder a chance. I wasn't sure about that. I'm not so sure I would do that. I'm just going to say that. It was right on the fence of, it was, hey, good for a rookie who got put in the end of the year, but also I was like, I don't know if I saw a lot of high-end stuff that made me believe, like, this is the future. But with this type of signing with Heineke, I'm like, you kind of explained it well. It makes me think that, hey, they got Ritter's going to be the guy, and Heineke's going to be there as a really awesome 1A or backup in case things don't work out.
You mentioned Jonnu Smith. That's a guy that was acquired via trade with the Patriots, and this is one of the cautionary tales because it's easy to say, "Ooh, I like that move. Ooh, I like that move. Ooh, I like that move," and there's reason to be excited about teams being aggressive to make their teams better.
Yeah,
but Jonnu Smith was the guy who came in with Hunter Henry 2 years ago in New England. And in 2021, after his contract year performance in Tennessee with 41 catches, 448 yards, and 8 touchdowns, he had 28 for 294 and 1 touchdown in 2021. Last year, appearing in 14 games with 8 starts, he had 27 catches for 245 yards and no touchdowns. So, sometimes guys just don't click. It doesn't work. We have to see what happens moving forward. But, the money's there. Teams have cash. Teams have cap space. They're doing what they have to do to try to get better. But could become a great compliment to Kyle Pitts in Atlanta. But the quarterback position, I think, is going to be the key there. What are they going to do? Ridder, Heineke, and TBD possibly in that quarterback room for 2023.
And Jonnu Smith, Mike, to your point, too, they know him a little bit. Arthur Smith was with him in Tennessee, right? So it's not maybe as a gamble for him. But, yeah, it never got going with the Patriots, to your point. It's just he got off to a little bit of a rough start. It's like he kind of felt the pressure from that whole thing once it got right. It was almost like Evan Ingram in New York, where he just started bad and people didn't get off his back, and he can never kind of regain his footing. And we'll see here, of a fresh start with some familiar faces can get him back on track a little bit.
The Bears had plenty of cap space going into free agency even after acquiring the contract of DJ Moore, and they spent plenty of it. Couple of linebackers, TJ Edwards from the Eagles, Tremaine Edmonds from the Bills. They added defensive end DeMarcus Walker from the Tennessee Titans, also guard Nate Davis to a 3-year deal as they try to try to bolster the wall of protection for quarterback Justin Fields. Not that he needs a lot because he can buy a lot of time with his feet, but still you got to have some decent offensive linemen if you want to be a decent team. The Bears and GM Ryan Poles doing what they have to do this year. They didn't have the cap space last year to do it. Last year was more tear it down. This year, Chris, has used free agency to help build it up.
Yeah, I mean, draft picks, got DJ Moore, right? We talked about it yesterday. Offense is really in a pretty good spot. You know, they added the offensive lineman and Nate Davis. They could probably add another one. I wouldn't be, I'd be shocked actually if they didn't. But now it's like kind of what we talked about yesterday too when we were talking about the Panthers-Bears trade. They can really focus on the defense. They got the offense almost in the spot they need it, want it, whatever. Might be a few finishing touches. But now Matt Eberflus, with all the things you explained, I mean, all the money they got, and for a guy like him where his defensive scheme is kind of rooted in the Seattle scheme to a degree, he's got a lot of wrinkles and things he does off of it. I'm a big fan of Matt Eberflus and what he does on the defensive side of the ball. To me, he got his Bobby Wagner and his KJ Wright. Right, he got that. It's imperative to this scheme. They need athletic linebackers. He was with the Colts. He had Shaquille Leonard and Walker. Right, he had some guys there that could run and cover a lot of ground. Good in the pass game, shoot gaps. Now he's got two guys just like that. And linebackers, when you get two, I think T.J. Edwards is a phenomenal player. I think he's underrated actually. Tremaine Edmonds is a freak of nature. Linebackers change your team, I think maybe, or defense more than any other position. Because now they're just in the middle. They're so involved with every play. And we see most good defenses have freaky, fast middle linebackers that make you as a quarterback go, whoa, they're a fast team because they're just flying all over the place right in front of your face. It's going to change their defense. Great signings, I thought, by the Bears to get both of those guys and a DeMarcus Walker who plays a bunch of different positions too on the D-line, Mike.
It's one of the things I remember you saying about looking across the line at a Ravens defense with Ray Lewis. And
right.
Just adds to the stress of the quarterback. And who's the guy they always point out? And I know it has to do with the pass protection coverage, and he's the pivot point, but they always point out the mic.
Yes.
They point out anybody but the mic.
Right.
Got to know where the mic is.
Yeah, you got to know where the mic is. But, yeah, those are the guys that are front and center. And, like the quarterback has the ball in his hands every play. Well, on the defensive side, the middle linebacker or the two backers in the middle there, they're kind of involved in just about every play in the game. And yes, like my experiences with Ray Lewis and that crew, or the Bears with, Urlacher and Lance Briggs, I mean, it changed the feel. It just felt like anytime I wanted to throw a 5 or an 8-yard pass over the middle, I just thought, man, they're so fast. They're all over this stuff. Man, it's risky throwing the ball around those guys. And then the run game, every time you hand the ball, you're like, oh, there's Urlacher in the hole. Oh, there's Lance Briggs in the hole. So those guys set the attitude for the defense. And, I'm sure they're not going to be done on that side of the ball. But, damn, those are two awesome additions to start off free agency. And, again, culture, get things the way you want it, scheme fit, all of that made sense with those two guys in the middle.
Panthers also spending some money. They made the news on Friday, jumping up from number 9 to number 1 in the draft, adding safety Von Bell from the Bengals, defensive tackle Shy Tuttle from the Saints, and kept center Bradley Bozeman. Not huge moves, but just kind of like, hey, Panthers, we see you're out there. We see you're trying. And again, they don't need to do a lot. They're not like the Bears or the Broncos.
Right.
There's gaping holes that need to be filled. This is more fine-tuning.
That's right. It's a young team, right, that's got a lot of talent across the roster. And, yeah, this is I think you're saying exactly right. Now, hey, it's another – we got some good corners. We got Jeremy Chin at safety. Now we got Von Bell to go with it, who can do a lot of the same things Jeremy Chin does. So there's some interchangeable parts there. So that's where I love it. And then even with the Shy Tuttle, one thing that bothered me about the Panthers is a little small on defense. They're small in the middle. Shy Tuttle, above 300 pounds. It'll free up their other freak of nature, Derek Brown, on the inside, to where now he doesn't always have to be maybe the shade nose tackle. They can make him the 3 technique. He can be one-on-one with guards instead of being over the center and double-teamed by the center and the guard every play. So it allows them to get bigger and move Derek Brown around. Yeah, the Panthers are one of those teams, Mike. We hit on it, I think, a little yesterday. It's, we'll see what they do with the draft at quarterback, but there's parts and pieces there for them to be relevant in the NFC South and certainly be one of the major players there.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.